Good morning, Instagram, if you're in the US. And if you're in the UK, good afternoon. Today I have Sam Goldfinch, who is in the UK, and he'll be joining me for a conversation with a gray area drinking coach. And so I'm going to look for him to request the join here in just a minute. As a reminder, the next gray area drinking coach training begins February 15th, so a week from Monday. One more week, and then I won't run this again until summertime. So it's going to be quite a few months. So I'm going to bring Sam in right now, and you can hear about his experience in the gray area drinking coach training.
Hey,
There he is. Hi, Sam.
yeah, how are you doing?
Good. I was just letting everyone know that you're joining me from the UK. So good afternoon to you, and good morning to everybody in the US joining us.
Hey, team. Yeah, cool.
Where in the UK are you joining us from?
From, I would say, sunny Liverpool, but often rainy Liverpool.
Yes,
Yeah.
Middle of the country. Is it raining today?
Do you know what? We've got away with it today, but we have seen so much rain this winter, it's been crazy. But no, we're good. We're blue sky today.
Wonderful, wonderful. So end of the week, some decent weather. So tell us about you, Sam. Tell us your background coming into the coach training, and then I want to hear about your experience and all the exciting things you're doing now. But what is your background? And one of the few males, by the way, obviously that's gone through my training. So such a fun perspective from the male side of things.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I don't really know where to start, Jolene. I've been a teacher for a long time, probably for nearing in on 10 years now. I spent a lot of time traveling around the world. That's when a lot of for me, the heavy drinking kicked off. When you're sort of doing those things, you don't really notice these things creeping up on you. So I had a lot of jobs, some of them with a lot of responsibility. But it wasn't until I really started to take some management positions. I was working in Poland in a school, and I had people relying on me, that two things started to happen. One, I started to really realize I just love working with people one-on-one and in groups, and just, at the time I was coaching, but I didn't really know I was coaching. I kind of figured out in my own way, it works much better to guide people than it does to just, tell someone exactly what to do. And at the same time, it was difficult because I started to realize, whoa, when people rely on you and you're going home drinking every night, that's pretty heavy. And it gets harder and harder every day when you wake up. So teaching for a long, long time, I came back from my gallivanting around and didn't know what to do with myself, but I carried on teaching, and I still now do coach and teach in schools. Do my kind of sober rebellion coaching on the side, but soon to be full time. So excited.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I want to get in and talk about that. And you also came in to the training with background in breath work, correct?
Yeah, that's true. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. This is why I said I don't know where to start. So yeah. I've been working in a lot of breath work. I've spent some time in India trained to be a yoga teacher, so I was super interested. So that's something that I think the power of the breath is just huge. It seems so simple, but much like you teach in your training, Jolene, we can go to war with ourselves with thoughts and try and fix ourselves through thinking. But really, if we can teach our body, I'm calm, I can breathe, I can, it's just such a powerful tool that we can put in our toolkit. I'm really passionate about working with the breath, and that's something that I do a lot. And I know that you see the power in that as well. And holistic lifestyle coaching as well, the power of just good food, sleep, movement and meditation, rest, all those things.
Yeah, so you came in with many years of, a teaching background, working with groups, working with individuals. And then were you teaching yoga classes and some breath work classes?
Yeah, so teaching breath work classes online. Just sort of, I really enjoy the sides of yoga that a lot of people don't know are yoga. So I think in the West, yoga is sort of synonymous with the kind of asana and the poses, but there's such a real fraction of the yogic path. And, for me, I have my own personal yoga practice, but when I've taught yoga per se, it's always been kind of breath coaching and more of the kind of psychology elements of yoga. There are people doing that, but I think it's not given enough at our side of the world. Like, people just go and do the fitness class. That's the side of yoga that really interests me.
Yeah, and I'm so interested in your breath work side of things because, as you know, my philosophy with the Nourish philosophy is observe your breath.
Yeah.
Because when we come back to our body, and that can sound good, but it can sound really theoretical. Like, how do you do that? Like, how right in this moment do I come back to my body? And understanding and having practical tools using the breath is a
Hmm.
really practical, immediate way to do that. So I love that you have that background and that interest because when, like you said, when we start to shift our body, that's when we start to shift our mind. So
Sure, we overcomplicate this stuff. We really do. The power of just in for four, out for four is just mind blowing. And, you know, as a practice that you can bring in, I think a lot of people, when it comes to meditation and mindfulness, they feel like they're not doing anything and they kind of feel like, oh, I'm no good at this. You know, there's a whole other topic to talk about. But the great thing about breathing techniques is that, you know, you're actively focusing on something. You're putting yourself into that state of mindfulness and calm, you know, or picking yourself up. You know, it's really easy to learn breaths that in the morning stop you drinking, you know, crazy amounts of coffee because they give you a pick you up. So it's just something we've lost connection with, and it's just something that really, that mind body connection, the breath is just such a great way to dial into that.
agreed, agreed. So, you know, listening from a practical standpoint, from a, you know, practical tool, Sam just said in for four, out for four. Don't take, you know, his word for it or my word for it. Like, try it. Like right now, as you're listening to live or on the recording, literally, you know, you can just silently count slowly in for four as you inhale and then out for four and repeat that a couple times as you continue to listen to us talk and then notice what happens. Like Sam says, it's very powerful, but notice for yourself if what starts to shift that way. So Sam, with you know this real passion and interest in the breath, in the yogic side of things, and your professional expertise in teaching,
Mm-hmm.
how did then your gray area drinking story start to intersect and you know align with now this is the work that you want to start doing in the world?
So I had quite a few long periods away from alcohol. You know, 3 month period, 6 month, and an 18-month period. And the truth is, I didn't feel completely free. I was going out there and doing some really brave things, traveling and, you know, making my world bigger. But at the same time, I was making my world smaller. I wasn't facing some things I knew were going to make me uncomfortable. You know, learning how to socialize in bigger groups of people, or you know, these kinds of things that were when I came back to a space where I was in those situations, suddenly I was triggered. So I thought that I'd kind of smashed it, but I could sense that I didn't feel completely free. And, you know, there were elements I was missing. I was missing community and I wasn't writing. And, you know, I hadn't been completely honest with myself and the people around me. So I started to write a blog, which at the time was called Unaddicted. And, you know, that really became this amazing, beautiful, cathartic experience that really showed me, wow, like this is what you've been missing. You've been missing true, you know, reflection, personal reflection and connection. And I kind of knew from that point on, I want to go down this road. You know, I want to help people move into this space of genuine thriving, not feel like they're surviving. And I did it quite young. You know, I started this journey when I was sort of 28, I think. And a lot of people have said to me, like, well, that's mad to do it that young. But I wasn't going to accept that I couldn't have this incredible life. And I knew that there was a way of doing everything I'd always done and enjoying it just as much, if not more. But I couldn't crack it. It was a hard nut to crack. And so I think my journey has been through the coaching, like with your training, Jolene, and through meeting mentors and just the inspirational people in this space, is unpicking that puzzle to figure out, well, how do you know, feel like that? How do you really feel like, well, for me, it's like a rebel, like a sober rebel, and feel free. So that's it. You know, that was the kind of sweep for me. And all of this was happening at the same time alongside me teaching full time. And it was almost like having two separate worlds. That didn't really interface all that much because of the stigma around addiction. You know, I was quite frightened to actually be honest in some of these spaces about my experiences, which isn't the case anymore, which is also another way that I feel free. But I'm not sure I've answered your question, bit around about the houses, but kind of that's a bird's eye view of some of it.
You've absolutely answered it. And because of your personal experience and seeing where the, you know, the shortfalls were, the shortcomings,
Yep.
and what was needed. And then you started to build that on a really practical level of what you needed. And then now what you can offer others, which is such a beautiful, rich coaching experience, is when, the coach who has been there and still, navigating, always kind of evolving, but knowing kind of what that road looks like and saying, here's the stumbling blocks. And you now, Sam, guide others through those stumbling blocks where you didn't really have that guidance.
Sure, and this is the beauty of a training like yours, Jolene, or when you're diving into this work, is that you start to open up parts of yourself that you didn't know were there, and you really start to shine a light on things. And stopping drinking kind of isn't enough. Like it's a fantastic start, but then there's all this kind of work that needs to be done. Why am I drinking in the first place? What are the things bubbling beneath the surface that I need to face that are going to really help me just set myself free from this? So yeah, I mean, it's amazing. It's really beautiful. And we're always growing, aren't we? Like, there's no such thing as being fully cooked. If anyone, I don't trust people that tell me they're fully cooked, because none of us are we, at the end of the day?
Absolutely. I'm not fully cooked. I'm a lifelong learner, always working on my own process. And
Sure.
then that's, as I do some of my own work, that's like you, what then turn around and share with others, because we've had that embodied experience of trying things. So let's see, there's a comment. I'm trying the breathing. What feeling am I looking for? I'm very new. Sorry, my eyes. I'm very new to this. 35 days, no experience in meditation or breathing technique.
Okay, so you're not. I think a lot of people. It's kind of like the power. When I say the word powerful, and it's not necessarily always intent, but it's just this recentering of coming back into your body. So what you'll notice is if you breathe in for 4 through your nose and out for 4 through your nose, just really slowly with a nice count, and then out. And just, if you really, really focus in on your abdomen and feel it rising and falling, it's really not possible, if you're fully present with your breath, to be lost in your thoughts as well. And if you focus on that, you may lose yourself and then come back, but over time you'll notice yourself start to calm down. And there are other breaths that you can use that are also really, really powerful at settling you. And I would say that a 4-4 is quite nice. It's quite like adaptogenic, in that if you want to calm down, it will help you calm, and if you want to kind of lift yourself up, it will help you lift up. But there's many other breathing techniques out there, so many different people will respond in completely different ways.
Kudos for trying. So, and again, that is so much of what the work is because we consume so much, we hear so much and read it and go on to the next thing. And so I really, thank you for those listening and stopping and pausing and trying. That's what this work is about. And then noticing. And sometimes, we try things and notice, I didn't really like that, which is totally fine. But the only way we know, one way or the other, is to actually run it through our circuitry in our body and then notice, did something shift or not, or change, or so yeah, thank you for that practical kind of guidance with that, Sam. I love, me, I like the practical real time.
For sure. I said this before, we overcomplicate things. I think so very often we're looking, because we live in a complicated world, we're looking for a complicated solution. And actually, if we put ourselves in our kind of mental time machine and go back 40 or 50,000 years ago and just ask ourselves, what would I be doing on a day-to-day? I would be out in nature, I would be breathing, my feet would be touching the ground. I know that you have an amazing experience and practice with grounding, Jolene, and it's a beautiful practice. So all of these things that seem so simple, it's the kind of compound interest of inviting some of them into your life is massive. It's so huge. It can be such a, it's so enriching. It can be a completely new way of life. So, if people are thinking about the breath and whether it's going to work, I would just say start with a minute, start with 20 rounds once a day, see how you feel after a week, and then up it and up it. So many people say, well, what's the point in meditating for a minute? What's the point in meditating? Well, there's loads of point in it, because if you get benefit, then you'll make it 2, then you'll make it 5, then you'll make it 10, and then you'll make it a habit. And when you say to yourself, I'm going to sit and meditate for an hour, and it's your first time out, it's much better to start with something that's achievable and build up. It's just the way to go, in my opinion.
Love it. Thank you, Sam. Thank you for that. So let's talk about then the training of what, again, with your background. So this is, people who come in have this professional expertise in some realm with coaching as a practitioner, the previous study they've done, which you had. What drew you to take the training when you did, and what was your experience going through? I
felt that I had a lot to give and a lot of ideas in me, and I'd been writing, and that would have been an amazing expression of my path. But I felt like I was craving a framework. I was like, I'm not sure that I have a channel to put this into that's going to work for people. So, that was the kind of my main draw to the training itself. And I would say that, it really spoke to that, Jolene. It was amazing because I think when I came in, my understanding, and we talked about this a lot, coaching is understood in many different ways by many different people. And, to some people, pure coaching is completely undirected. There's no advice, there's no suggestion. It's kind of like just a process where you guide people to awaken their inner wisdom. But when you're working in this space, it can be really magical to mix those moments of kind of guidance with powerful kind of suggestion. It's not advice. It's, does this work for you? Keep what does and drop what doesn't. And, that was kind of what I got. It was this amazing framing for all the resources that I already had that I didn't know how to order, but then also the amazing experiences and kind of resources that you prompt all of your coachees to try out during the course as well. And then, put in their toolkit. And I have had the most amazing experiences working with people over the last 2 or 3 months, just signposting them to places and helping them, find things that they would never have found. So yeah, in a nutshell, that.
So good. Well, and it's like what you spoke to, a minute ago when you were going through your process. So you'd have these periods of not drinking, and then you'd go back to drinking, which is so typical, such a common characteristic of gray area drinking. And it's like, no, it's like, I need this piece, but where do I find this piece? And now you as a coach, knowing that, like you've been down that road and then providing that roadmap, which gray area drinking clients want. They want that roadmap. And again, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We all have different individual biochemistries and constitutions and preferences, but that's what we work very in depth on in the coaching, is having these tools. So as we're working with clients, because clients want the resources, and that's what this training is, and then really amplifying what everybody comes in with, because people come in with different backgrounds, like you, Sam, this really beautiful background of working with the breath. So.
And this is what makes everyone unique, the hundreds or the thousands of kind of formal and informal training that everyone's been undertaking to become a coach. Like, your life experience is your life experience. And there are so many ways that you can bring it to life for people and resonate. And people will really resonate with that. And it's the beliefs and habits that we adopt on our journey to stop drinking, whether our choice is to stop drinking for a month, 6 months, a year, a lifetime, are just huge, because, it's not always easy. There are challenges, and having the right tools to support you. I think I remember talking about a web, Jolene. We spoke about, if you've got your web around you of all these different amazing practices, well, if one of them isn't quite working, you've got a web, so it doesn't matter. You're being held up by everything else, and it will carry you to that place where you want to go. Because if you don't have those things, I think you're much more likely to just, what's the way of putting it? Kind of make your world smaller to make yourself more comfortable. And in doing that, you just know that you're not doing you're not doing the things that you want to do. I knew that I wanted to go out and socialize and, have fun without a drink in my hand. And I wasn't going to rest until I'd figured out, well, how do you do that? Because I don't just want to sit in every weekend. And some people are not like that. Other people, then that's fine. But I think owning your truth and figuring out the things to have in your life to support you live your truth, is just so important.
I want to talk a little bit about the male perspective of this conversation. Predominantly, you know, my last couple of interviews have all been women. You are one of two men who have gone through my program. Loved having you in, and we talked about this. You know, as a group in the cohort during the training of you know, kind of that male female. I mean, predominantly, I think that there's more women in this gray area drinking conversation. It does not mean that there are not men gray area drinkers. So I'd love to just have you speak to that a little bit of, you know, coming into this as a male, kind of what you're seeing from that perspective, working with clients and just even your experience.
Yeah, I think there's, you know, a masculine and feminine play to everything in life. The yin and the yang runs through all. And, you know, it's in serving both parts that we really find the truth. And I was looking around me when I was first blogging and writing, and I was connecting with these amazing women. I was sort of reading Holly Whitaker, I was reading, you know, The Hip Sobriety and Laura McCowan and all these amazing women. I feel really privileged to, you know, just that they've helped me in the way that they have. But there weren't many guys around, you know. I think a lot of guys started to reach out and say to me, it's really nice to see a male voice who's being honest in this space, who's actually bearing their soul. Yeah, and I don't know, Jolene. I think it is changing. I think men are possibly more likely to kind of just not go and look for their help. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. They're maybe not on the forums talking so much, and they're kind of a bit more like, I can just like get on with this. I'm the kind of guy that's just like, I just sort my life out. If I've got a problem, I'm not going to read the instructions. I'm just going to build the wardrobe or whatever, you know. I don't know. It's really, really hard to say. Like the difference for me was that when I reached out to all of this incredible stuff that was being written by women, it just moved the needle for me so much. It changed everything for me. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say other than I hope that more men will start to just share and be honest and come into this space and start this conversation.
And, you know, men like you stepping up and speaking about your own gray area drinking story, offering up your different programs and offerings and coaching, I know starts to open the door even more for others to follow. Where they, again, you know, that's so much of the gray area drinking kind of thing is it opens the door for people, male, female, however people identify, to walk through a door that they may not have otherwise walked through. And so, you know, Sam, having you part of, you know, as a coach, it's so nice because, you know, there are some who want to work with same gender. And, you know, there are men out there looking for, you know, they don't want to work with a female coach. So, so I love having you in this cohort and community with all of your offerings. So tell us, and again, those of you who are on live, if you have questions for Sam, feel free to drop them in the chat. He was kind enough to take us through a little bit of a breath technique. And so if you have other questions for him about breath or, you know, anything about his story or coaching, drop those in now. But Sam, tell us, where do people find you, and tell us about your offerings and what you're doing now that has evolved and come together since the training.
So I think the training has really filled in the gaps from, like I said before, about how am I going to coach? How am I going to work with people? And I kind of now know that it's very much about, you know, when people need to have their kind of intuition awakened or limiting beliefs challenged, like that's where I'll sit. And if people are at a point where they just need some solid resources just to go through them and see what works, then that's something else to really do as well. Because the biggest thing for me that I've always felt is missing is that I've walked into so many places and people have tried to make out that I'm boring for not drinking, or, you know, that I'm being a fun sponge because I'm not going to be the center of the party. When to me, it's the complete opposite. You know, choosing to feel and actually be witness to your entire life is a badass choice. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's subversive and it's cool. It makes you stand out. It gives you an edge, you know, and whether you're somebody who's choosing to relearn a relationship with alcohol or completely leave it behind, you know, that's true for all of us, and the tide is shifting, which is lovely to see. So I'm just passionate about helping people get free, not just about people stopping drinking. I want them to feel really, really free, and just like I said before, not feel like they're making their world smaller, but making their world bigger. Yeah, so I mean, the Sober Rebellion, that's what it stands for. That's what it represents to me. It's both a personal rebellion of anybody who wants to stop drinking, and this wider movement that hopefully it will dial into in its small part to just help people realize that, you know, no, this is cool. There's absolutely no shame in this. It's an amazing choice. It's a badass choice. And that's what all my courses and everything are going to be built around. I've got one launching on Monday. So if anyone's interested, they should come and check it out. And yeah, I mean, it's called The Foundation because it's basically the foundations of what you need in the first 50 days, so that when you're 1 year in or 2 year in, the foundations are there. Because if you try and just bring in all this stuff before you've really slowed down and really met yourself again and asked yourself, you know, what do I need? What do I need when things are difficult? How do I move through a craving? Or, you know, what kind of diet is good for me? Am I supporting myself? How have I not been looking after myself for the past 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years? You know, what is it that I need that's going to help me out? So yeah, in a nutshell, that's the Sober Rebellion ethos. I'm just, I just want people to realize that it's a cool choice.
I'm all about the rebel. Foundation is such a great name. It just encompasses it so perfectly. It's building that foundation that's not just for, you know, kind of these initial days, but for months and years that you can always return and come back to that foundation. I love that.
That's it. And I think if we move into creation too early, which is what I think many of us try to do, it's like, I'm going to create and change everything outside of me to make me feel better on the inside. We skip a step because we start crafting everything to make ourselves more comfortable, or we move, or we start a new job. And then 6 months down the line, or 8 months down the line, or 1 year down the line, we're like, oh, actually, there's all this foundational work that I didn't do. So, you know, level one is just so important as the foundation for your life. And I think everything you do in your training, Jolene, that's what it is. It's you know, it's building all of that level one stuff so that when you're looking into purpose and passion and the things that feed your intellect, you're doing it from strong foundations. That's it.
So good. So good. So you're Sober Rebellion on Instagram.
So it's sober.rebellion on Instagram. It's getting a rebrand as of pretty much tomorrow. So it's going to be getting a bit of a change. I've got websites and all sorts coming up all over the place. And the foundation launches on Monday. If people want to find it, it's at community.sober-rebellion.com. But they can, there's links in my bio. If they just hit the kind of like the link, it takes them through to, you can go through to that page. And there's loads of other things on there. So yeah, I'd love to connect with people. I love reaching out and helping people. Happy to answer questions or whatever. Yeah.
So I will link your Instagram handle under this video so people can go to your Instagram and then go through all your links. And yeah, I'm so happy to introduce you to everybody watching. For them to know about, you know, again, I just love having the male voice in, you know, at the table, because I've been, you know, it does come up, but people are saying, you know, who are the male coaches out there? And so Sam is an amazing coach, and you work with people one-on-one.
Yep.
Well,
work with one-on-one. I would really, if there are any guys watching this who are on the fence or just, you know, what do? I would just encourage, just come in, because particularly over the past 3 or 4 months since I've done your training, Jolene, I found a lot of, particularly young men in the late 20s and early 30s reaching out and saying to me, I don't have a community. And, you know, without that, it's hard. We are human animals. We need to be understood. We need that kind of connection. And it's the strangest experience to be surrounded by people, but feel as if no one gets what you're going through. And that's the beauty of the internet, is that it allows us to find these tribes. And particularly at a time like this, where many of us can't go out, where many of us can't even, you know, go and see our friends, for example, and we're isolating. You know, there's beauty in like meeting up online, be it one-to-one or in small group. So if there's any guys that are either thinking, you know, is this a leap that I want to make, be it in terms of like going and training to be a coach with Jolene, or just, you know, just start to explore this you know, living a life free of like being, you know, pushed around by alcohol, basically. Just go for it. It's the greatest thing I ever did. I wouldn't change it for the world. I truly wouldn't.
I'd love to have you speak to the social component, because that was a stumbling block, as you mentioned, for you and your own process. It's such, you know, a high on the list topic in coaching with so many clients, and also, you know, kind of navigating a relationship. So do you want to speak about that, about how, you know, early on it was stumbling blocks, and you know, you worried about it, and what you've kind of seen the progression for, just for some hope for those who might be in that right now and worried about that social component?
Yeah, I mean, just start small, find one amazing connection, because I really felt as if I was finding connection, but it was through the words of others. So I can remember sort of six or 7 years ago, stumbling across, for example, Holly's blog, Hip Sobriety, and just reading every single word of it. And I was like, whoa, this is like someone's written this for me. Like it is such a crazy experience when you read something that it's almost like you penned it. And I was finding connection, and I was like, wow, there are people that feel like me. This is amazing to actually experience that. But there's a big difference between that and actually reaching out to people and being able to just talk to people live. And I mean, that can just be one connection on Instagram, and like being honest with one person. Because I mean, I talk a lot about this in coaching, but being in your center is a huge part of community. So, you know, take, for example, somebody who, if there's an event coming up and you don't feel as if you want to go, you know, own that and find one person wherever they are that you can be honest with and talk to them to, because then you're in your power. Because if you start making excuses, telling people you're sick, and, you know, then you don't feel as if you're not being honest. And we all need to do what we need to do. But I think the community element is just having people understand you, being able to just have enough space when you start talking to someone to free yourself from your own head and your own thinking, because we get locked in it, we get trapped in it, and we get consumed by our thoughts. And sometimes just a 5-minute chat with somebody is so just powerful and empowering, and it's so great at giving perspective. So whether it's coming and joining a course like I have, which has a community attached to it, or joining a group like Jolene has with a group of coaches, because then that, for me, is one of the most powerful things about what you're doing, Jolene, is just the amazing community and how much you learn from everybody else in the group. It's just so exciting to turn up and not know what's going to happen each week. You know, it's great. So, yeah, I think social media, being honest, finding a few people that you really trust, and then growing it from there. And, yeah, reaching out to people.
What was your favorite part of the training?
I mean, that, without a doubt, the community, that element, just the, you know, I loved all of the training. I loved learning about, diving deep into kind of the neurotransmitter piece. It was huge for me, actually, because actually off the back of the training, I carried out quite a few of the little sort of like questionnaires and things that we did. And I found out, you know, there were parts of, you know, I've been eating well and doing well, but there was kind of supplements that I've invited in that have made a huge difference to me, actually, that have really helped me, particularly with sleep. And I'm now, after not looking after myself for the longest time, I'm now very keen on, you know, doing a good job, looking after myself. So that was a really nice thing to come into and see. So I'd say a combination of that, a combination of diving into the neurotransmitter work, and just the amazing community. And again, just being surrounded by a group of people who, in their own small way, are all changing the world, and who are all doing it in an inspiring way. It's so amazing. Like I think I said on my review that I wrote for you, you know, everything is honored in that space. And the somatic work and the body work is just so important, because I think so many people go into fix-it mode and just try and fix their thinking with more thinking, when actually so much of the time it's coming into our body, coming into our breath, coming into all the practices that you teach, grounding. That's where the magic is. That's where the magic is. We don't have to overcomplicate stuff.
Yeah, the magic's in the body. Physiology is fascinating. And and yes, nutrition's a piece, and we, you know, dive into that. I'm adding another week for this next training round by popular request from alumni coaches. It's now amazing. A 7-week training instead of 6-week. So we're going to go even deeper into all of that, because that's a huge part of physiology and shifting, how our body feels. And food is a piece, but there's all these other pieces too that work on physiology. So my foundation, as you would say, Sam, where this training is really 100% is in the body, in the physiology. And there's so much to say about that. And that's why it's 7 weeks long, because we spend the whole time looking at the nervous system, the brain, the physiology, and all the different components, the gut that interact with that become then these really practical, doable, fun resources that we, like you say, Sam, you're trying them yourself because they're interesting, and then you notice pretty immediate results, as do clients.
Yeah, and to be able to take people through that process of getting back to baseline is such a beautiful thing to give people, because we forget when you've been drinking for 20 years, 30 years every night, and depleting your neurotransmitters, being out of balance, you kind of forget just the joy of a cup of tea, or just how amazing it is to watch something that you really, really love, but not because you're kind of addicted to it, but because it's enjoyable. And as those things start to come online, being able to show people how to recognize, that's it. That's what we're looking for. I think you said at one point, it's kind of like, the Christmas lights going off in your head, where you're like, wow, that's the experience that I'm looking for. And I think going through your training and turning that lens on yourself, and for me, diving deeper was, there's other things that have become much more enriching in my life. So, thank you, Jolene. It was a great experience, and, I would encourage people to experience it.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for that. And likewise, back at you. It was wonderful having you in. And like you say, everybody comes in with their expertise and their backgrounds, and it becomes, the collaboration and how, of course, I'm guiding and leading the topic each week, and the various trainings around neurotransmitters and things, and what everybody then brings to the table. Because they're live, you're not watching a video of me. So it's in the moment, real time. It becomes, so rich of the layers that come in, and the resources that help all of us professionally. So it's, it's professional coaches and healthcare practitioners that just lift everyone up and allow everybody to just really spread their wings and expand into what their zone of genius is.
Yeah, and that's it's so wonderful to be in a room where you're absolutely not, the smartest person. No, it's so lovely to learn from people. Not that I very often am the smartest person in the room, to be honest with you, but it's very nice to just know that you've got so much to learn from every single person, and to be excited about everybody's offering. To be in that scenario is, it's great. And I think, again, it's one of the beauty of the internet, of being able to pull together a group of people who might not be able to meet in another scenario, and, have that amazing experience where you're learning from each other. So yeah, great. Coaching is, I think a lot of people it's hard to understand what coaching is until you've experienced it. Ultimately, for me, it's completely changed my life, both being a coach and being coached. And I can't imagine a world where I would stop doing either one of those things.
Well, and I love your energy and your passion as a coach. I've seen you in action and seen some of your work, and you're just, as you described about kind of that openness, and there's a place to hold everything, whatever needs to come to the table. You embody that and exhibit that in your coaching. So it's so great to highlight you and for people to know about you and hear you, because I love the energy that you bring to your clients and your community.
Amazing. Thanks, Jolene. That is a very kind word.
Well, thank you, Sam. What did we not get to or left out that you'd like to add?
There's that amazing question. That is an amazing question, isn't it? What else? No, nothing really. Just like to invite people along for the ride. As I say, the Instagram is going under a bit of a rebrand, so that's going to change, so people can come and hop on. just I sort of feel as if I've been running two worlds, and slowly I'm starting to bring everything together. And so I'm just really excited. Anyone that's watching this, I'm super excited to meet you when that happens. And please reach out and join this amazing community. And yeah, that's it. Like let's keep moving the tide in the right direction. And I think with every video like this and every training event that you hold, Jolene, and every kind of, every small piece that we play, it can feel as if there's a huge amount of work to be done. But, it's being done. We're doing it. And I have absolute faith that, 10 years from now, we're going to be in a very, very different place. It's amazing to see what's happening on the news every day. And I'm sure you feel the same. Just that it's wild, actually, to see how much things are changing. It's great.
I agree 100%. Yeah. I mean, just even from where things were 5 years ago to today, and it'll be the same, another 5 years. And there's such a need. I'm in some corporate conversations here in the US, and we can't have enough coaches in this area at this point. It's just continuing to grow the need of people who resonate as gray hour drinkers. Again, this is not going out and saying the whole world needs to stop drinking, but for those who have had this inner kind of back and forth conversation for many years and want the support from those who have been there from a coaching healthcare perspective and have that roadmap and resources. Sam is one of many, and we need more. We need so many more. So that's what I'm so passionate about continuing this training. The next one begins February 15th in 1 week. If you're a practitioner or coach who's interested, please go to my bio, check out the full page with all the details, fill out the application. Would love to talk with you. And Sam, like all the other coaches who have been on, would be happy to if you want to reach out to him to hear, kind of from the participant side too. I think it's always nice to talk to somebody who's gone through something that you're thinking about signing up for. So reach out to Sam if you have any questions. He's been on that side too of thinking about it and then pulling the trigger and registering. So Sam, one more time, where can people find you?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, that's one thing I haven't mentioned. So the course on Monday, people can find us at, so it's it's community.sober-rebellion.com, but all the links to this are on my Instagram, which is sober.rebellion. And if anyone's looking for like a fun ride, it's the first time I'm doing this. I'm moving from one-to-one into this space, so it's an absolute bargain. You're going to have a great time in there, and it's going to run you through 50 days, basically the rest of February and March. If you want to come and experience what the Rebellion's about, like face-to-face, that's a great place to come and do it. And yeah, other than that, my website's coming up soon, and the blog and everything. The Unaddicted blog will migrate onto there, and that will be coming up soon. As I say, I'm just working to get this as my absolute full-time gig because I'm just so passionate about this, and we're almost there. So come and say hey.
Absolutely. I love your passion. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for your time and your energy. I'll put your link below so people can check out all your links and get to know you and follow you and check out your community.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, Sam, have a great weekend. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining.